Have you ever looked at a map of Great Britain and wondered, how did this all come to be? How did this one island become home to distinct nations like England, Scotland, and Wales? Well, the story is a sprawling epic, a real-life Game of Thrones stretching back thousands of years. It's a tale of tribes, Roman conquerors, migrating warriors, and the slow, often bloody, birth of kingdoms. Let's rewind the clock and uncover how Britain was born. Before the Romans even set foot on its shores, Britain was a patchwork of Celtic tribes. These weren't just scattered groups of people. They were sophisticated societies with each own cultures, languages, and territories. Think of the Iceni in the east, led by the legendary Boudica, or the Brigantes in the north. They were farmers, traders, and fierce warriors, living in fortified hillforts, their lives dictated by the seasons and the will of their chieftains. This was a land of hundreds of small, independent kingdoms, each with its own identity. Then in 43 AD, everything changed. The Roman Empire, the superpower of the ancient world, arrived. For nearly 400 years, they imposed their rule on the southern part of the island, which they called Britannia. They built roads, cities like Londinium and Ebracum, that's London and York to us, and introduced Roman laws, language and culture. But they never fully conquered the whole island. The fierce tribes in the north, in what would become Scotland, proved too difficult to tame. That's why Emperor Hadrian built his famous wall, to mark the northern frontier of the empire. But no empire lasts forever. By the early 5th century, Rome was in decline, and its legions were recalled from Britain to defend the heart of the empire. This left a massive power vacuum. The Romanized Britons were suddenly left to fend for themselves, and who came to fill that void? New waves of migrants from mainland Europe, the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. These Germanic tribes arrived, first as mercenaries, then as settlers and conquerors. They pushed the native Britons, the ancestors of the Welsh and Cornish, to the west and north. The period that followed is often called the Dark Ages, but it was really an age of formation. Out of the chaos, new kingdoms began to emerge from the Anglo-Saxon settlements. You might have heard of them. Kingdoms like Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, and East Anglia. This was the Heptarchy, a collection of 7 major Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, all vying for power. For centuries, these kingdoms fought, allied, and absorbed one another. It was a turbulent time, made even more so by the arrival of another group, the Vikings. From the late 8th century, these Norse raiders terrorized the coasts, but eventually they too began to settle, carving out their own territory known as the Danelaw in the north and east of England. It was the threat of the Vikings that ultimately helped unify the Anglo-Saxons. One king, in particular, rose to the challenge: Alfred the Great of Wessex. He successfully fought back against the Viking invasions and laid the groundwork for a single unified English kingdom. It was his grandson, Athelstan, who is considered by many to be the first true king of England, uniting the various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and the Danelaw under his rule in the 10th century. Meanwhile, to the north, the Kingdom of Scotland was also taking shape. It formed from a union of the Picts and the Gaels of Dalriada, creating the Kingdom of Alba, the foundation of modern Scotland. And in the west, the Britons held on, forging the independent principalities of Wales. So, from a mosaic of Celtic tribes to a Roman province, through the fires of Anglo-Saxon and Viking invasions, the separate kingdoms of England, Scotland, and Wales were gradually born. It's a complex and fascinating story of conflict, migration, and fusion that shaped the island of Great Britain and the nations that call it home. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the past. See you next time!